Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dan Blanchard with the Travel in Time with Dan show, where we mix travel with history and with leadership, of course with me, Dan Blanchard. Today I'm in Ashford, Connecticut at the Knowlton Memorial Hall. They're in Ashford, Connecticut. All right, this is a pretty cool place and something not a lot of people are aware of. All right, there was this guy called Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Knowlton. He was a really big deal, but he kind of goes down as like an unsung hero of the American Revolution. This guy was really amazing. At something like maybe just 15 years old, he was in the French and Indian War, and he did really good in the French and Indian War. Kind of stood out, ended up even fighting over at Fort Ticonderoga, right, which is really cool. Now, after the French and Indian War, he decides to go back home to Ashford, Connecticut, which is this little area right here. And you got some pretty cool historic buildings here. A little Warrenville right there, a little old home there. That red house says Warrenville on it, which is pretty cool. Coming back here to the Knowlton Memorial Hall. All right, so he comes back here and he kind of becomes a farmer again, kind of like that old Roman thing, you know, that thing that all the great Americans are trying to do, like George Washington, even the Connecticut guy, Israel Putnam, right? Come back here, become a farmer. He also becomes like a selectman of Ashford, which is pretty cool. But then the American Revolution breaks out and he's got to get back in the action, right? So Thomas Knowlton gets back in the action. He's a captain of the Connecticut militia and he performs brilliantly up at Bunker Hill, where George Washington notices him, and any other Connecticut guy, Israel Putnam, notices him. George Washington recruits him, asks him to run a thing that's called the Knowlton Rangers, which is pretty much the first intelligence agency of the United States, right? It will become like the prelude to eventually the Cobra Spy Ring, the Army Rangers, the Army Intelligence, and the Special Forces. I mean, this is a really big deal. Knowlton's Rangers is a really big deal. Unfortunately, as he's out there fighting, and he's in the Battle of Harlem Heights, he's just 35 years old when he's killed in that battle. And sadly, about a week later, his guy Nathan Hale is hung for being a spy. This is a huge hit on George Washington's, initial attempts at like a spy ring. And George Washington realizes he's got to do something different. And that's when the Cobra Spy Ring comes into effect, where they're going to use civilians instead of like military people. All right. Now, again, he's not well known, but there's a statue of him in Hartford, which is really cool. Here, you've got the, his memorial. Here, there's also a library, by the way, right? And then about a mile up the road, if you go about a mile, 44 East, like you were heading toward Rhode Island, there's a scout camp there on the left, about a mile from here. And that was the old Knowlton Hermitage. That's where he lived in Ashford, Connecticut. Still there. It's called, it's a scout camp over there, right? And also, and one last thing, there is a Knowlton Award that's given out for someone who makes above and beyond contributions to the U.S. intelligence, all right? Now, if you haven't been here to Ashford, definitely come check it out. It's such a quaint little farmer-like town. Again, kind of goes with that drop the plow, pick up the gun sort of thing, and do your duty in war, right? So, I like to mix the whole travel with the leadership. So what is the leadership, right? The leadership is lead from the front. That's what got him recognized at Bunker Hill, was that Knowlton was like right in the front line, running around yelling orders, putting his life at risk, but he got it done, and that really got him noticed by George Washington. Another thing that he did, another great leadership thing is do the hard jobs that nobody else wants to do. You think people wanted to go behind enemy lines? No, they did not. But Knowlton did that, and he trained other people to do that as well. All right, well, thank you for your time. It was great seeing you again, spending some time with you in the Travel in Time with Dan show, where we mix travel with history, with leadership, and of course with me, Dan Blanchard. We're going to catch up with you again real soon. Y'all take care now.